So you can't not see this. It's all over the news, and whether you're on TV or the internet, and that is performing surgeries on children to supposedly change their gender. This is called usually gender affirming healthcare or surgeries. So it's a big thing now, and just this whole idea of thinking that as soon as someone thinks they're a different gender than biological, snap them right in, get all the surgery done, fill them with hormones, and they're good to go. But that's not what is happening. It's funny how you have to watch the news from Australia sometimes to get an idea of what's really happening. But 1,000 families, this is in the UK, United Kingdom, 1,000 families are suing the NHS, which is the National Health Service, over this idea of this surgery that was done to their children. And I think what it's primarily based on is the idea that alternatives weren't given, second opinions weren't made. So in other words, a family approaches this subject and someone's like, yeah, let's do this surgery, blump. And what's happened, on this clip that I was watching, a few years later, the child realizes that it was a huge mistake, especially as they're getting up into the teenage years. And they feel that the National Health Service did not do what would be called adequate steps before this. In other words, it used to be even, I remember reading about a plastic surgeon, and he always counseled his people generally not to get the surgery. He still had plenty of business, but he would try to dissuade people for doing purely cosmetic surgery. So that's the sort of thing that these parents said should have been in place when they approached the health system. That there should have been counseling about it, and there wasn't. So the one option was, oh, you said the magic word, we'll get the surgery done as quickly as possible, rather than thinking, wait a second, we should tell this person that this might just be a phase they're going through. And when they're older, when they're an adult, they may really wish they hadn't done this, which is very often the case. So it's just bizarre because we're taking, generally with children, you have a phase that people go through, growing pains they call it, like as far as psychological. I mean, one of my kids liked to play being a dog a lot. And it's like, should we have encouraged that and, got a dog collar and all this stuff and had surgery done? But that's kind of what, and the child grow out of it. But being confused about sexuality in today's culture, of course they're going to be. There's just so much, society's so sexualized, there's so much pressure being put on being politically correct that, of course there's confusion. And if that confusion is a 1 or 2 year period, should doctors, perform surgeries that are pretty irreversible because they're removing body parts sometimes, and on what could be a temporary state of mind. And like I say, they've got 1,000 families that are going to be suing them, and I'll bet that they decide to do some counseling beforehand, and rather than just rushing in. And so here in the United States, we'll have the same thing. We're a little behind, but uh, it seems like, especially these last 2 years, uh, maybe a little longer than that, there's been this huge push towards transgenderism and uh, and doing it with children. Uh, the FDA finally issued a warning saying, wait a second, these drugs are dangerous. A lot of these puberty blocking drugs and different things are actually quite dangerous medications, but they're used sometimes in a case of, rare diseases where uh, going through puberty might actually, uh, uh, you know, kill a child. You know, so these all these drugs and things that they have aren't really for uh, changing gender. Having these surgeries done and finding out on the other end that you pretty much still have the confusion, and it doesn't significantly help. The uh, the MDRA or whatever it's called, the psychiatry people right up in the United States, they've issued warnings saying that this could be a temporary situation. This gender confusion, the sexual dysphoria is what they call it, and that having the surgery done doesn't solve the problem completely. That's what they said it a little differently than that. But the idea of that, okay, the person gets in a new body, does that help them? Well, evidently, for a lot of them, that doesn't help them at all. And you can imagine the conflict if Jenner, the famous athlete who had this transgender, all this stuff surgery done, he's even admitted, he went from biological male to transgender type woman. And he announced at one time that he was disappointed because he still was only attracted to women. It's like, well, yeah, that's hardwired, that's built into you. And thinking that you can do some external changes that will change something, genetic or whatever, just isn't going to happen. So how long will it be? There's this huge push now. Will it be 5 years? Will it be 10 years? When we see these children coming of age, able to make their own decisions, and being removed enough from the situation to say, why did you people let me do this surgery? What I was a kid. I didn't know what I was doing. Now you basically, for most people, you destroyed my life, because they're not going to have the normal type of relationship between men and women. They're just not going to have it. They've been altered too much. So I think this will come in the United States. Of course, it will come way too late for all of these children that have had the surgery done. Sometimes it was a phase they were going through, and sometimes, sadly, and you hear the parents talking, so you know what's going on, that they projected something onto the child, whether it's their need to be politically correct or they have some guilt about something, but this idea of living vicariously through your child by actually having them cut up and filled with drugs. That's not good at all. I mean, I shouldn't allow them, but it's so bizarre. But that's exactly what's happening in some of these situations. So we'll see if it's 5 years, if it's 10 years, when these youths hit 18 and start to think, separated from just the influences they were on, and see what they think about the situation. Tell me what you think. Bye.